This is He Knows Everything, bringing you that heat, that fire. All right, let's talk about it. The worst punishment in his natural born life. Aren't you guys seeing a simile here? How many times on this platform, year after year, day after day, month after month, week after week, we talked about this was going to be the worst punishment that Terence Crawford was going to ever face in his natural born life. Let me say it again. How many years after years, months after months, weeks after weeks, days after days, shit, we can even go to seconds after seconds that we said that Terence Crawford is going to get the worst punishment of his life. We saw All Access yesterday. We saw the delineation. We saw the distinction. We saw the gulf. We saw the separation. And what did we see? We saw that Errol Spence was very clear. Shawn Porter did not do the things that his daddy told him to do. You see, the daddy part is very important. You got a lot of Rudy Poo and Plum brains. Classic dotes and troglodytes. Ultra fanboys with the ultra fanboy rhetorics, i.e. beta males. They reside in what we call beta male congregation, i.e. mama's boys. You know, the emasculated males. They were feeling some type of way because we talked about fatherlessness, right? Well, if Shawn Porter's father did what he was supposed to in training Shawn Porter the way that Shawn Porter needed to be trained, Shawn Porter would be up for the fight. But here's the caveat. Shawn Porter couldn't train the way he was supposed to because he was brutally damaged. And a prediction, King strikes again. And a prediction, King strikes again. Didn't He Knows Everything tell you guys that after the Errol Spence fight, when he fought Sebastian, when he fought that dude, the tune-up fighter, what happened in that fight? Shawn Porter looked washed. So when people say it was a close fight, you don't know shit about boxing. Let me say it again. When you say it's a close fight, you don't know shit about boxing. When you sit here and say that the fight was a draw, you don't know shit about boxing. That means you don't have the true boxing eye test. That means you don't do film study. That means you don't even know what's in front of you. When Errol Spence dropped Shawn Porter in the 11th round, that didn't save him the fight. That didn't get him the fight. The fight wasn't too close. The 11th round was basically the culmination of who dominated the phone booth. Let me say it again. The 11th round was the culmination of who dominated the phone booth war. Errol Spence made an emphatic decision. If you guys remember the press conference in the Shawn Porter fight, he said, I'm going to fight Shawn Porter's fight, and I'm going to beat Shawn Porter at his own game. That was the first time Errol Spence said, I'm not going to tactically aggress a fighter. I'm not going to technically punch a fighter. I'm not going to do body snatching work, the Levy onslaught of the punishment style. I'm going to fight a phone booth war fight. This is going to be a war of attrition. And what happened in the war of attrition? Who came out on top? Was it tactical aggression? Or was it ineffective aggression? Let me say it again. Was it tactical aggression or was it ineffective aggression? And what you guys found was that tactical aggression came out victorious. So when it's all said and done, we're not seeing something that we didn't already know. When people sit here and say, well, Terence Crawford fought a Shawn Porter, like Errol Spence said, that was 1 foot in and 1 foot out. You have to understand what he means when he says that. That means he was properly retired. This is what we call pre-retirement. This is what we call basically filling out your AARP. Let me say it again. This is filling out your AARP. See, when you fill out your AARP, it's your pre-retirement. It's your retirement package before you come to the conclusive, the finality and the totality state that you are actually retired. So when Errol Spence washes a fighter, they are in what we call pre-retirement state. So Shawn Porter was already pre-retired. This was evident when he fought Sebastian Formella. When he fought the tune-up fighter, everybody was talking about it. It was like, Sean Porter looks drained. Sean Porter looks washed. He looks completely done. You want to know why he looked like that? It was basically the residual of what Mikey Garcia was. See, people don't appreciate Errol the Truth Spence's greatness until they start seeing a commonality of fighters getting properly retired. Every time Errol the Truth Spence fights a fighter, they are retired or they are in pre-retirement state. Chris Algieri, he retired from the sport of boxing. Phil Logreco, he retired from the sport of boxing. Leonard Bundu, he retired from the sport of boxing. Samuel Vargas, he retired from the sport of boxing. Chris Van Heater, he retired from the sport of boxing. Do you see a common trait here? Or do I need to keep going to Errol the Truth Spence opponents? Kell Brook, he retired from the sport of boxing. Sean Porter, he retired from the sport of boxing. Mikey Garcia, officialized, he retired from the sport of boxing. Ocampo, where the fuck has Ocampo been? He's been retired from the sport of boxing. So when Errol the Truth Spence says that Sean Porter was not the same, we have evidence. We have history store bank. We have an encyclopedia. We have a vernacular. We have a history of fights after fights after fights. We have hospital visits. We have amber of pissing and pissing of amber. We got guys coming out on fight hype videos 2 months later convulsing. We got guys that when they fight their next fights, they're no longer the same fighter. So when Derek James says after you go 12 rounds with Errol the Truth Spence, you are no longer the same fighter, that's what he means. So when Errol the Truth Spence is saying that Terence Crawford is going to get his worst punishment, this is for undisputed. So the punishment has to be the worst. You have to understand why. Because of what is at stake. The goal for Errol the Truth Spence was to lord over and dominate the welterweight division. The goal for Errol the Truth Spence is to do something that nobody's been able to do. Become undisputed at 147. So because of that, Terence Crawford has to be the casualty of what we call being tactically aggressed, what we call being technically punched, and what we call being body snatching worked. He has to feel the levying onslaught of the punishment style. You see, the Punisher by trade, as the fight keeps getting closer and closer, Errol the Truth Spence's hands become more snappy. They become more fiery because it means that he is preparing to punish. Yes, that's the cold-hearted. That's the unadulterated. That's the cutthroat truth teller fashion. So when Errol the Truth Spence says, I'm going to give Terence Crawford his worst punishment, you guys are going to see a punishment you've never seen before. I done told you, instead of there's going to be the Chihuahua's going to get stifled. Dumbbells will be dropped. He will feel brutally devastated. He will feel utter destruction. He will be obliterated. He damn well might be put out on a fucking stretcher. This is why I said Bomac, in training camp, practice throwing the fucking towel. The best thing to expect in a stoppage at this point is a TKO. Because if you let this shit go to a KO stoppage, I'm telling you right now, it's going to look like some Mike Tyson type shit where Terence Crawford is going like he's getting ready to get hit, and you hit Errol the Truth Spence hit him with a 2-piece. You see a left hook and then a right hand while he going down at the same time. This motherfucker may possibly not get up. This is how serious it is. Because Terence Crawford ran his mouth. Terence Crawford ran up against the wrong dude. And now it's time for him to pay the price for his Chihuahua parking behind the damn fenceways. I keeps the foot on the what on the Knicks. I keeps the foot on the what on the Knicks. This is He Knows Everything. Check it out.